So I asked Scott, you know, is there a relationship to how much money we spend on an item, the number of people? Scott says the most active thing we got. I have to leave at 2:45, so, and John was not here, and all these things. I'm glad to
You're
see you.
alive.
Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Veronica Valley Parks Committee to order. By chair's discretion, we'll forego the pledge of allegiance right now. We're short on time, and we'll all be saying it here in another hour. Roll call, please.
Mr. Behrens,
Here.
Mr. Christensen,
Present.
Mr. Popa, absent, Mr. Walter.
Here.
3-1.
Right off the bat, I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda. It would make it really 1A or two, just put it in between 1 and 2, and that is discussion of I guess the term is correct, capital outlay budget items for 2022.
That's number 4.
I already got it on 4. Well, I'd like to push that up to number 2.
Okay. So you are moving capital outlay as number 2.
Is up to number 2 and sliding the other 2 down.
Will we be able to discuss potential 2021 also?
Yes, because it's related.
Okay.
I move that we approve the amended agenda.
Support.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Public comment?
The number to call in for public comment is 231-256-8109. And if somebody calls in, we can interrupt.
We will take that comment if you call in, when you call in. Approval of minutes from the previous, the April 12th meeting. I looked through them. I didn't see any reason. I didn't see anything that needed correcting. So I move to approve those minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. John Popa is not here today, but he's submitted notes for this first agenda item, that is the proposed capital expenditures. I got these about 2 hours ago. We'll simply go through them rather than, I didn't make copies to share. I just got them printed off and I'll go through them at this point. It's really the fishing, item number 1, the fishing access around the old putting green. He calls it the safety walk. It's been a discussion of fishing safety of kids fishing and et cetera. John Walter, will you describe some of what you and John Popa
Yes.
designed in your heads?
Yes, what it is to help create a flat area from the water edge, about 5 feet wide,
So a walkway, 5 feet wide.
5 feet wide walkway, who would meet a wheelchair. It's also there, my granddaughters go there, so I see one's fishing and one's carrying a pole, and you gotta go around, one's in it, well, around the other one without putting their hook in the sister's hair. So it's a safety issue. And also and then it was discussing about putting some type of stone or some type of surface on that. Along with that, it was talk then of putting a 4x4 at the edge of the water, holding the gravel, and pinning it with a reinforcing rod. There's a second thing that would help, and that is if a child fell in the water, they could turn around, grabbing the edge of the 2x4 and crawl out. I'm big on safety at that park. To enable that to do that, that means the dirt or ground has to be pulled up to create a flat space. And then reseal it. That's basic. That's it. It would also help provide for a wheelchair approach to the water's edge. Right now, there's not a wheelchair approach to the water's edge. You can fish by going up on the bridge and fish out the bridge, because the ramp coming up to the bridge level would meet 1 in 12 slope, which would be okay for barrier free.
Were you part of John's, what he has here, discussions with, I think, someone else, 15,000 on that, is that?
I think that's realistic. Mhm. But one of the things we had discussed is, does this contractor do everything? Do they do all the seeding and everything like that? And so I don't know how John had figured it. And I think he kind of figured that the contractor did everything.
Okay. Now, Steve, this gets to your question, although I should have started with this now. The question on this fishing access is, can some step of it be done this year? But I got confused in last night's meeting. I thought Casey said, when this went back and forth, it was with the trail clearing discussion. I thought he said $9,000 was coming out of our budget this year.
Yes, 98.
98.
Does
And,
that leave,
well, it does not come out of capital outlay though. Jen is saying that she has the ability to pull it from other areas. So.
Jen's a financial genius, but she's off this week.
Yeah, so I think we would have to kind of do an assumption that I heard her correctly, and that we have our entire capital outlay line laying in front of us to spend this year.
which is 30?
45.
45.
The cost
Capital
of the
outlay.
trail, oh, capital outlay.
The budget for capital outlay, I
The
think
entire
the
budget.
entire capital outlay is 45. Now, the culvert, might possibly have to come out of that.
That should be less than 5 though, because
Okay.
the estimated cost of 5 was for a 100-foot culvert. And now it's been downscaled to what, 30?
33, yeah.
So it shouldn't be 5,000.
Right, so all right, there's some money there. I think if John and John were prepared to do an RFP, basically, we talked with Laurel at the commission meeting later today, we can direct people to prepare an RFP and go out to bid. And the discussion at the commission level will probably be how much money about do we have and which items fit in that we would actually direct to go out to bid. We don't want to get in a position that Scott's real familiar with, where we go out to bids and lo and behold, we don't do anything with that. Nobody gets selected, the project doesn't happen for whatever reason, and one reason might be we have not quite enough money. But if we are pretty solid with our estimates, you know, if we're saying this 15,000 is going to get us to the where we want to be with this RFP, with all the items listed that need to be done, so that goes out to bid. We get it, those people to Laurel, they work with Laurel, that goes out to bid, and we put a time frame on it. Laurel knows those time frames. Has to be in by such and such a date, and we get a bid in. Ideally, we get a bid in. From what I understand, there's a lot of situations right now that are not getting bid because people are so dang busy. But at least we would make that step, and I think this is a worthy candidate for some activity this year. We will see what the RFP says and what extent it is. You know, I think this would be a great step.
Do you have thoughts of something that would need to be done before this fishing access path this year? We're already doing the culvert, is that one on the whole driveway, or
Strictly a Veronica, I mean?
yeah, strictly a Veronica.
No, not that's gonna be great costs.
I have a question. And Scott, you probably can answer this. Our Porter John situation there is, I would say, adequate. However, we've talked about the potential of upgrading our Porter John situation, and do you see something that we could do an RFP on that would mean, I don't know, a different surface, a different location? More than 2, maybe 3, I don't know. What do you see happening for an upgrade with the Porter John?
And can I ask this question, because it's about upgrade? If we put them on an actual cement pad, would you not want that in a location and an access that's really tied to the plowing of the parking lot? And so you can plow it easily as you plow the parking lot, no extra winding around here, digging around.
Right. And plus access for the company.
For the company, absolutely.
In the winter as well.
Absolutely.
So, they are around for that.
So do you see a spot and an idea of what we could do that would make sense?
It's hard to say what's gonna happen with the parking lot. So
I would think we
until we
have,
nail that down, I can't say, yeah, I'd really like to have it here.
So parking lot really has to come before that one.
At least the design of it, so.
and the elevation, so if we did a pad,
Right.
you don't want to,
Don't
Where are
want
we?
below the parking lot.
Where are we in the parking lot design now that we've got
okay,
a
well,
culvert that's 30 feet versus 100 feet?
John and John have worked on that. John Popa's next item here that he's added for consideration today, 61 to 70,000. That's with what, two kind of verbal quotes, or one of you figured it out on your own and one of you got an actual quote and they came out close.
Yeah, I could have looked at Elmer's, but I felt it was high, and that's okay. We defined a base grade of gravel and 2 lifts of asphalt, 2.5 lifts of asphalt. And that would coincide with the asphalt on the approach. From my understanding, it has to be on the approach, a commercial density, and done in 2 lifts with a 6-inch gravel base. So that's why I think that Elmer's put their prices of 60,000 on it. I thought that was expensive.
But then, do you know of John's other, he says here, Thomas estimate, and he said, I had a detailed engineering estimate, both came in 61 to 70,000.
Okay,
It seemed to me, and I don't know when he said detailed engineering estimate, is that from a friend of his, or did he sit and calculate
I don't know.
some prices? But he was surprised, I remember him telling me, Elmer's came out, let's say 64, his estimate came out 63 or something, so they were close. So where do we stand with that? Well, can we put that lock, stock, and barrel in next
Well, I
year's
think,
budget?
I think having that number is important for our discussion as to how the budget cycle goes. Obviously, something of that size is outside of our budget, so we would be putting that in as an addendum in our budget, a request for the county board of commissioners to fund the parking lot. Right. In total.
In total, I agree.
And we did, and then we just add all the numbers up, and then instead of the budget being $130,000 or 150, it's 250. you know, we've got these other items in there, we have a bigger budget this year, these are what things we want to do. And then let them pare it down, you know, obviously.
You may have stepped away at the time that they were discussing the trail debris, but last night, one of the commissioners made a big deal about how you don't have anything listed in the capital improvement plan.
We've
So-
got a lot in the CIP. We did not have the cleanup, but we've
Okay.
got something for each part of the CIP.
Because whenever you make a request to them, we should probably include that. So-
Upgrade the CIP.
Right, upgrade that, talk to Trudy about that, because she kind of manages that. And then definitely include it in your budget prep for next year.
Okay, so the CIP and the actual
Request.
budget line item for capital outlay, those are two different things?
Yeah, the CIP is an overall listing of what are we gonna do between now and the next 10 or 20 years on each part.
How often is that redone?
They get to they ask department heads to come up with new plans or revisit what they have listed
Got it.
every January or February.
Got it.
So it's something we'll do in conjunction. I can take anything that we want to over to Trudy and upgrade the CIP in an appropriate manner, but she has a procedure, I think.
Well, I would think right now, I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend to the full Parks and Rec Commission that we place parking lot improvements in the CIP and next year's budget request, seeking the county commission to pay the full cost, not to exceed $70,000 for our planned parking lot expansion.
Support.
Is that clear, Laurel?
Motion by Barron's to recommend to the County Parks and Recreation Commission that we place the parking lot improvements to Veronica Valley Park within the county's CIP and seek full county board funding for the
In
project.
the 2022
In the
budget.
2022 budget.
Seek the county commission. Requesting full county, the county board of commissioners fund the proposed project at a cost not to exceed $70,000. Because that would be the high end, right?
Well, I'm taking that from John Popa's range, yes, that was the high end.
Right. Now be prepared, because they might say, well, some of this should come out of your budget. So maybe 10%, like 7,000? You have to probably kind of keep an eye on that. What would you be willing to compromise on? Does that make sense?
Yes, I did. I think it does make sense, and we can probably throw that into the committee's lap.
Yeah.
The committee's gonna have to put together the budget.
Wouldn't this be added to the budget?
Well, when, not this committee, but the executive committee is the group that takes the paperwork for the 2022 budget.
And the
Right.
And
executive
this will
committee
be
is,
in there, and in the narrative, we can say
Right.
whatever we feel we should say, and
Yeah.
what Laurel's suggesting, I think, is a good idea. 10% of this outlay is 7,000 that'll come from our budget. On the remainder, we are requesting for the county to pick up.
and maybe not even say 7, because what if it's less than that? You don't want to be on the hook for
Just say
7.
10%.
Yeah, just 10%.
Now, just to be clear, my intent in my motion was to get it to move through Parks and Rec into Parks and Rec's budget considerations. So at that point, am I correct? Am I hearing that I'm correct that the actual presentation to the county board may be slightly different? I mean, that our budget committee can.
Well, yeah, the
tweak this.
budget committee can add a caveat of, we will pay
Okay.
10%. I mean, the item will be there, and I think that's what the intent is here, is to get the item,
That's right.
to the budget process, and the committee that's putting the narrative together can
Excellent.
put that kind of a caveat in there so that the county commissioners feel a little more inclined, maybe.
Excellent. Okay, so any other discussion? Because we have that motion on the table. All in favor? Aye. Let me go back. Both John and Steve, here's the question. Can we work on this kids access fishing pad? Can we do some step this year?
I'm sorry.
Well, I think, yeah, I could do a motion. I move that we recommend to the Parks and Rec Commission consideration of work on the safety walkway this year.
And is it the main fishing pond? What do you call it?
Yeah, it's the old putting green, so it's on the main kids fishing pond.
We are not specifying a dollar amount right now for consideration.
If it helps,
I think-
if it helps move the project,
Well, I
I think we
think,
should.
yeah, I think we have a rough estimate of $15,000 for that work.
And it's 16?
16, I'm sorry, 15. 15,000. Does John have kind of an out, did he break that out?
No, he did not.
Well, I think, yeah, if it's a relatively firm number, that's one we can work on pretty well at the commission meeting this afternoon. I mean, we're gonna end up directing people to put it together an RFP to go out to bids. And we need to do that now so that we have a chance of doing it this year. So this one.
What if we don't
seems to
have-
fit.
Do we know that we've got the 15,000, even though we're spending 4 on weed control? 4 plus,
Jen's out this week.
2 on,
Well, we could do it pending review pending review with Jen. I think we could do that. Jen will be back in next week, and we have our marching orders, and we're gonna go out to bids on this, and this, and it's
so
total this, and Jen, should we go with this, or?
So there's an addendum or completion of the motion that Steve made, that we recommend to full Parks and Rec that we proceed with fishing access in the main fishing pond, not to exceed 15,000,
Well, you're gonna.
pending review with Jen.
So we typically tell people if you're drafting RFPs and you're going out for bids, which this would clearly fall within that range, you don't have to make a motion. So with that being said, though.
We're just recommending to the commission.
All right.
The commission doesn't have to do a motion, right?
Right.
Got it.
Okay, got it.
That they accept the direction we're suggesting to them, okay.
I'm glad you know this stuff.
Well,
So we have motion to recommend to the Parks and Recreation Commission consideration of work of the safety walkway around the old putting green of the main fishing pond.
yes.
And since we're talking about going out to bid, we don't have to go any farther with this motion in terms of dollars.
Well, yeah, we've got a relatively strong number there. And when we get to the commission side, we'll probably give the marching orders to people to do the RFP with a number, and it might be 15,000.
Okay, I'm just trying to be clear on your motion.
Or it might, yeah, I think, I don't know if we need a number on the motion or not, Laurel, do we have one in there?
Well, you can just discuss during the meeting that you have a rough estimate that it's not gonna go over 15. You
Got
have
it,
no idea until the bids come back what it's gonna be.
got it.
But that's what you're anticipating.
Okay, that's true, and that just gets us to the ballpark of several numbers that will total this amount, and then somebody will take that to Jen next week before the RFPs go out.
So we're clear on the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Maybe we can just incorporate your comment when we were talking about having access to buses and making it safe for the circulation. So that's how it came up. Before there were two entrances, the county only wants one entrance.
Are we on the replacement?
I'm sorry,
Are we on culvert replacement?
I was just about to move us on to that, yes. I don't have any update.
I can give you a brief update that it did go to council to draft contract. Someone is actively working on it. I have not heard back from council yet.
Okay. I presume the two of you know by now, Kids Fishing Day has been, I'm moving on to Kids Fishing Day in
Yeah, I see
Springland.
it. How'd that happen?
Well, their committee voted to cancel because of really the strong expressions of their three main sponsors, the Lake Association, the DNR, and the tribe,
Okay.
all being present at that meeting saying, we don't want any part of a gathering this year. Given the timing, the fact that the regulations from the state may change, the committee was told by the health department, regulations on this sort of thing may change at the end of the month. But the committee's quandary about continuing to raise money, which they would need more of, when they don't even know if the event's really gonna go, or trying to raise it all kind of on contingency and then pull it all off. You have the volunteers already that suddenly it's gone from no-go to go. The 1st of June, the decision was, no, let's pay to have the fish put in, but let's not have the event. Now, the other part of this discussion for us right now is they want some publicity out of this, that they're helping pay for the fish, for the summer's worth of recreational fishing. They've always been allowed a sign that advertises their contribution during fishing day. They'd like that sign left up longer.
I don't care.
The three of us don't care. What do we have to do?
Well, I think, who manufactures the sign?
I don't know, because I pointed out to them that even a hand home printed on a piece of paper like this, then laminated, has lasted all summer in full color on those 2 tree corrals. I put those signs up, I screwed them in with little washers, and they lasted really more than one season. So that's all they're looking for this season. And I think they were gonna go with something that simple. But I don't know that.
I guess, I think something like that could just be physically done.
Maybe put something in the kiosk too.
Well, then I'll tell you what, because they were not in a position, they were really just bringing this up as they were breaking up. And I said, we can work with you, but I'll go back to them and say, what size? Give me your language. And suggest the kiosk and see if they want something more than that. And then have that for our June,
Yeah,
those responses for our June meeting.
yeah, we've been doing that basic sign treatment, signage on the parks. It's a wooden post and a wooden backing for the trails. Is there, or was that in design format?
Well, the signs there are that laminated, almost aluminum surface over a foam core of some sort.
Okay.
I
But I
don't
mean,
think that,
the design, a certain height, a certain post, and
oh,
a certain shape could be copied, could be put almost anywhere. By the fishing, by the pond, and then kiosk, one by the long pond, I don't know. And who's gonna be on it? It's gonna be, Parks and Rec Commissioner.
the language in the, again, the conversation is some people were already leaving. I suggested, make your language that these fish are provided through the cooperative effort of the Kids Fishing Day, the Leelanau Lake Association, and its sponsors, and the county's Parks and Rec Commission. I suggested that we probably wouldn't want them to name the sponsors. It's their decision, it's their money, and their sponsors.
Right.
And that seemed to be okay, but I'll get that language specific.
And the band of Ottawa and Chippewa Youth, Grand Traverse Band, how
Well,
are they involved?
they don't pay any money though for the, they're one of the sponsors of the Kids Fishing Day. That's why I want to lump all that under the Fishing Day Committee of the Lake Leelanau Association and their sponsors.
If you start listing, we're gonna miss somebody.
Yeah, and well, and we don't owe them that much of that kind of advertising. It's to let people know their efforts, that committee and this committee got together.
Okay.
So I'll bring that detail back for June.
Okay.
Okay, onto the spraying plan part of that. Because the spraying will continue and the fish plant will continue, the spraying is right now scheduled for June 3rd. That's of course weather dependent. Could also be dependent on Mike getting up here, the techie, and looking at the pond and recognizing that the water hasn't gotten warm enough yet, the weeds aren't at the right stage yet, and he'd have to schedule coming back. That's not likely given where temperatures are going right now. We should be in good shape out as shallow as those ponds are. They assure me that they have done spot treating of ponds before, that they will be able to successfully give us a mixture of open water and weedy water. I've sent them this plan. The shaded areas are where we want open water. I'll give you that copy. It's gonna change.
I like it.
Sure.
And I went ahead and got it to him because Mike wanted it, requested it by last Friday so that he could continue to make right schedule planning with all of his ponds. And I acknowledge that, yes, you may get here, you may look at this, you may get here and look at the ponds and say, you know, you really ought to do it over here, something like that. Yes, Steve has suggested, because Heather's stocking plan was for 1,000 fish back here. Steve suggested 200 in this pond and 800 in this pond. I've suggested this open area because of your mowing. I actually drew it up wrong. I think it's done right here, but either way, we'll do it from where you mow that shoreline. And really just fan shape across the width of the pond because of the tall trees on the other side. You got the deepest water, the best shade. It's gonna be a good fishing spot. Here, this pond is so shallow, I don't know what to do, so I just picked it right off the easy access. It's fine.
Scott. You already have a green, I just think a green pen, mark it up a little bit.
I don't know if I'd change it.
Okay.
This is mowed here, I mow here too, I was thinking down here.
It's a little deeper down there.
Well, it's deeper at that end.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think more people- I'm just trying to think where I see fish all the time.
Right.
It's usually here. You got,
Well,
was it in the long pond?
800 in that, 800 in that one and 200 in the other. That was your suggestion, and
It's kind of gut level, Scott, I don't know.
well,
Yeah.
Heather heard it.
Yeah, all right, that's, because it's a little bigger, deeper.
Right.
Little chance of them to hide better. And
For whatever reason, it doesn't get the fishing, you know, I rarely heard, but the fish don't seem to stay there. I don't know, some eat number,
Oh, like a otter?
otter or something, or
Yeah, I saw,
mink or something.
did we get in the water after?
I don't know,
Mink?
yeah.
Yeah. I know otter could just wipe the pond clean.
Yeah. There is fish in it, I was looking yesterday,
That from,
So there's this carryover.
yeah.
And I wonder if.
That's a nice big blue.
I colored this in because I didn't know.
I'll bring it back up. There's info that Heather put out that shows
That is what we believe.
what they caught in the fall.
okay.
Well, yes.
And the guy was gonna, Gavali, he was gonna go ahead in the spring and try again for
Value would down.
over winter, but there are some new numbers from a more recent netting.
When did they do
I
that?
got photos of this last year or two.
No,
Oh, okay, the last,
yeah, 3 years ago.
okay, yeah.
I think it was 3 years ago. There was one 10 years ago.
John, what's your time?
No, I gotta go somewhere for something that need to vote on, and
Do we have, is there something on the table, Laurel?
You're talking about a spraying plan. You
So
already
we-
approved the purchase of, for the service, so.
So we're.
I think you're good.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything on the
So
table.
you're good to get out of here.
But we have to adjourn. Oh,
Well, are there any discussion items?
I'm sorry?
Any discussion items?
No,
Any board member comment?
no,
Any public comment? The number to call is 256-8109. There is nobody watching. It's up to you, Dave.
move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thanks, guys. My problem was a wife generated